the players from Baylor. Who do you where do you think Breece Hall is? That tomorrow? Breece Hall's tomorrow?
I think he's going to go.
I think he's tonight.
I think he's tonight. I think if I'm the Buffalo Bills and Breece Hall is sitting there, that's a really good fit because they don't need much else. What they do need is somebody who can, and Josh Allen's a fantastic runner, but you'd like to be able to take some of that burden off of him. Breece Hall does that. They've got other running backs that can do other things, but Breece Hall can be a workhorse in Buffalo where they get bad weather. Buffalo had to play that game with New England last year. Remember where it was like the wind and the snow and all that stuff, and it was 6-3. It was just a terrible game. Breece Hall could have helped them in that game.
When New England never threw a pass?
Yeah. Was that Buffalo, New England?
I believe it was.
But yeah, so you're going to have those games. Breece Hall can help you. He is a true workhorse, and that's about the time you should start drafting running backs in the first round. Is late. the Zeke Elliott, Saquon Barkley things have kind of been proven out to well. Maybe they'll never live up to being the third or fourth pick in the draft, but the days of Adrian Peterson are kind of long gone.
I think we might be coming back to those, though. I do think that things go in waves, and we've kind of been on this kick with receivers and the passing game and all of that. And I do think that maybe we're gonna, because defenses adjust, and so now I think that offenses are gonna have to adjust accordingly with more maybe of an emphasis back on the running game and running backs. But you're right, like it's not as valuable. Years and years and years ago, he's probably going top 5 or top 10 as the number 1 ranked running back. But now, he's a question of whether or not he'll go in the first round. I do think he probably goes tonight. He is the top rated running back. But there is a slight chance he could fall to the second round if things get squirrely like some are predicting. Now, depending on how that happens, maybe that benefits him, or maybe it leads to him being, the first pick tomorrow in the second round. But regardless, he would not be waiting long tomorrow. But if I had to bet on it, I'd probably say he goes tonight. Yeah, he is the top prospect. I think Petrie's the top defensive prospect out of the league, and probably the next guy up to be taken. And I think Oklahoma's got 2 or 3 guys that could go following that. And then I think that's when you start to get into, your JT Woodses and those. Charlie Kolar from Iowa State would be in that mix as well. So, that's kind of how I see it, at least, is Breece Hall's the top tier. Then there's Petrie. There's the Oklahoma guys like Asamoah and those players. And then, your Kolars and your Taekwons and your JT Woodses and those guys.
Winfrey from OU?
Yeah, like that contingent of those OU guys,
Yeah, I think you're going to see in the third to fifth rounds, that's where the kind of Big 12 recognizable names will go.
Breece and Jalen are their only first-round hopes, basically. And Jalen's not likely, and Breece is kind of on that borderline, but
but I think there's some really good heat-seeking missile linebacker, like ball, find the ball and knock him down. Mike Rose, Malcolm Rodriguez.
Yeah, Rose was hurt a little bit. Wasn't he hurt a little bit? And he didn't quite, but he was my all preseason Big 12, I think maybe Defensive Player of the Year.
But like Mike Rose, Malcolm Rodriguez, and Terrell Bernard, all 3 guys I think will all be very valuable to NFL teams because they are just they are ball carrier ending machines. Like that's the end of the play right here.
They're football players, and their problem really only is just that they're top 15-ish type of guys at their position. They're not top 5 guys at their position, and so they're going to have to wait a little while. But I think all of those guys are going to be pretty quality NFL players. But the Big 12, I don't know how they reverse their fortunes in terms of getting back and making the first round like a no-brainer every single year. This is just maybe one of those weird years, but it's kind of been like this, a little bit of a stretch for 2 or 3, maybe even longer seasons where it's very hit or miss as far as those top picks go. And they'll end up with plenty of quality guys. Iowa State will have multiple guys. Baylor could have up to 8 guys, maybe it's more like 6, but still that's a nice representation for them. Oklahoma will have a bunch of guys, but there's not a lot of Texas in this draft. Texas Tech,
Josh
not
Thompson,
really.
Who was a tremendous recruit for them. Another one of those stories. He doesn't even look like, I'm not even sure if he'll get drafted. And then Dicker, the kicker. That's it, right?
Pretty much, so. I guess.
Wouldn't be surprised to see the Cowboys take Dicker, the kicker.
Yeah. That's entirely possible. I mean, they could definitely use somebody.
They're kickerless right now, so.
Yeah, but this is pretty much Baylor, Iowa State, and Oklahoma. And Oklahoma State obviously has got some dudes as well, and those four are going to kind of carry the way for the Big 12. Just a matter of how much they can carry.
From Dane Brugler and also the staff at theathletic.com, and this is a story written by Arif Hassan. It's not all, but this is kind of the consensus. Obviously, so they still think Aiden Hutchinson, although everything seems to point towards the kid from Georgia,
Trayvon Walker.
Let me ask you this. Among these names, if the Cowboys had a chance and Drake London is available, Paul, he kind of fits their MO.
Yeah, he'd have to fall pretty darn far.
Yeah.
But actually, the top 5 list is top 5, have to stop Jerry from trading up picks, guys that I think he would do that for. Drake London was not on that list because, again, they'd have to trade. Like, this is based on rumors and everything. And, of course, Mickey kind of put the kibosh on.
Yeah.
It's probably more legend than reality, but there's some reality to it.
A lot of linemen. There's the guys, that, of course, the rushers with Walker, the end at Georgia, and, of course, Hutchinson as well. And then you've got Stingley, who had a great first couple of years at LSU and then was injured. Then you have a bunch of what is boring but not an offensive lineman. And after all, they go.
Going back to the Big 12 and again, the offensive lineman, Dawson Deaton from Tech should get drafted. Eric Ezenkama. I want to make sure
receiver.
those guys get represented as well. So Tech also should have a couple of guys at least.
Matt Alkire mentioned the Tech wide receiver as somebody who might sneak.
Ezenkama, and then there's a couple of others as well. But I'm thinking Tech will have at least a couple of guys, the ones that I just mentioned. Maybe Colin Schooler later. Iowa State will have their contingent that we've all been looking forward to. Baylor again with anywhere from 6 to 8 probably. Oklahoma with numerous. I mean, they'll probably have 3 guys alone go or very well could have 3 or so guys go in rounds 2 and 3 off of that defense. Oklahoma doesn't have like Kennedy Brooks will be interesting to see where he ends up. He's not really been talked about a whole lot as far as the running backs go, which you would have thought maybe early in his career you would have thought a lot about him at this stage, but it's been kind of quiet. But he'll be another guy, and so ultimately they'll have, I'd say 30 draft picks or something like that, probably, or maybe a little shorter than that. But it'll be a good represent. There's just not a lot of high level first round talent for the Big 12. But at the top of the draft, I mean, you're reading off like, the kind of expected way it's going to go. It is funky without all these quarterbacks just right there at the top that or like last year, we knew the number 1 pick for like 4 months before it actually happened, and we still don't know who the number 1 pick is tonight, which in that way, when people talk about this is the most wild, unpredictable, the number 1 pick is, and I guess that does lead to maybe more unpredictability the rest of the way, but I'm very curious to see.
Without quarterbacks probably going in the top 10, that makes it unpredictable because then you've got all these teams with 2 picks. The Eagles have 2 picks. The Chiefs have 2 picks. No, they traded one away, so that they won the Saints. So it's the Eagles, Saints, Texans, Chiefs, Lions all have 2 picks. So the Giants have 2 picks. So there's all these teams that have 2 that can move around, which is why, like when I asked Mickey, I don't think the Cowboys, especially given who's all in front of them with 2 picks, I just don't see it happening where they would go and move up. But I'm going to do one based on Rumorville, like the people that would maybe make Jerry go up certain
Jameson
spots.
Williams.
He's in there. Well, we'll get to him. He's got a torn ACL, so he's really attracted to the Cowboys in that he tore his
because of the ACL, not the talent.
Yeah, because they like drafting guys with torn ACLs because they feel like they're stealing someone. And Mikey can go right into the rehab room with Michael Gallup, so he has a buddy. Neither of them will be available when the Cowboys start the season. So while it's a long-term pick, it's still
Okay, I don't want to get into your 5 because I'll get away from that. First quarterback taken, Willis or Pickett?
I think Pickett, because I think he's more of a sure thing. But, sometimes it's not.
If the Cowboys move up in the draft, will it be because of a wide receiver?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's a couple other guys that would, if they plummeted, we'll talk about that in a second, but if they plummeted, then you'd see them going nuts for those 2 guys. But.
All right. I love looking at the mock drafts. I read a lot of them. And, of course, Matt Alkire, who's has his joined us a couple of different times, and I just wish that everybody has a chance to enjoy. Hope there's nobody that is how many players in the green room, like 21 or so, that nobody has to experience one of those falls and wait till the next day. And there will be. If Aaron Rodgers drops.
Yeah, like who cares?
Yeah.
He was embarrassed for a day. Guess
Yeah.
what? He's been laughing the entire time ever since then.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't want to be that guy stuck there. But I think ever since that's happened, they've kind of made sure to curtail that.
They've tried
and
it.
not-
Yeah.
They also invite guys who they know are going to be picked on the next day.
Yeah.
So like or could be. So there's some
High the next day.
High
Like
the
they
next
won't
day,
have
yeah.
to wait around a long time. Yeah.
If the Cowboys take an offensive lineman, is this on your list too, Paul?
No.
All right, Trevor Penning or the kid from Iowa that's the guard who's undersized, so to speak.
Oh, Tyler Linderbaum's
Yeah.
a center. I would say if they in the first round, I don't think Tyler Linderbaum is Travis Frederick because they drafted Travis Frederick in the late first round. I do think it would be Kenyon Green because he can play more positions than everybody
At
else.
24, or do they move
Yeah.
back and still get one of those?
I think they could probably maybe not Kenyon Green, but they could move back and get.
Will
one
they
of
make a
those.
trade tonight?
No, I don't think they do. Actually.
Really? That's just, and I say that it's not always been the case, but you just think that.
And the reason I say that is I think it's a little too crazy ahead of them. Now, what I would like to see is there a player that the Chiefs really want, and then maybe they can get 2 first-round picks out of that if the Chiefs really do that. But the Chiefs are a lot smarter than most teams, as you can tell by the way that they've drafted and played the last 5 years. So I don't see that happening.
All right, that's a little bit with the draft. Paul's got a top 5 involving that as well.